What's up, everybody? How you doing? My name is Calvin Thorbourne III, and I am here with my aunt and uncle. It's such a wonderful, hey, and I am so blessed to have them here at Bible Way Ministries in Atlanta, Georgia, Bible Way Ministries International, and I'm just excited to serve and take care of this technology and make sure that we can stream out to the world, because streaming is worldwide. So thank y'all for joining, and follow the podcast.
So Calvin Thorbourne III.
Yes.
From the outset, I want to say I bring greetings from Brown Memorial Baptist Church in Brooklyn, New York, where Clinton Miller is our pastor. And so we're here in the Bible Belt of just outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And I just want to start from the beginning to tell me a little bit about how the pandemic has affected your spiritual life, firstly, and secondly, the life of your church.
Okay, great question. Spiritually speaking, my spirituality is what has helped me through trials and tribulations, and joy and happiness as well. We always, we always say our spirituality helps us through trials, but I'm thankful when good stuff happens. But I'm also prayerful when not so great things happen in my life. So the pandemic was just another, to me, it was just another opportunity for God to show what he's doing and why this is happening and what the purpose is and how, all things work together for good. So I was like, okay, well, let's see what the good is. And for me, it made me get more involved in my church. I volunteered more. I couldn't just bury my head in the sand. Because the pandemic was mostly respiratory related, it made me say, well, how can I strengthen my respiratory system? So I personally started to run regularly and just try to strengthen my body, because I knew there was work that I needed to do in the kingdom and I wanted to be healthy. So the pandemic just strengthened my spirituality and made me become more involved and get my hands dirty. And we fed hundreds of people during the food bank because the need was greater. So, we had a parking lot full of cars before we even started, before the doors opened. We do it once a month, and we do it 1 week in the month, and we do it like 2 or 3 of those days. Yeah. And it's been phenomenal just to be able to help and to provide so many boxes of food to people. But the pandemic kept me busy. I think I was busier because since the pandemic than I was before the pandemic. I was grateful that I'm the technical director here at Bible Way. So I bring you greetings from Bible Way Ministries International in Atlanta, Georgia, where Pastor Dr. Monty Norwood presides, and also his father, Apostle Matthew Norwood, has been instrumental in my life and my spiritual life, and I just want to put that out there, I've been the technical director for a while in different capacities. So prior to the pandemic, I was mostly focusing on sound and just a little video, and then I started to move us into more of a technical, we wanted to stream. Even before the pandemic, I said, hey y'all, we need to stream, and we started streaming. But it was just like a one camera, just right straight to maybe Facebook or something. And but the pandemic said, you're going to have to do more than that now since you're not in person. So we were able to put a little more resource and time and education into how do we get a quality stream, how do we make it engaging, how do you continue to win souls for Christ if they're not in person. So those are the questions we sought to answer. One thing that was important is there's a lot of content, and we wanted to make sure that we could compete, if you will. And we're just competing for the same people that are online browsing, and we don't want them to turn off because we can't provide what they've grown accustomed to seeing. So we got decent camera, nothing, and this is not a mega church, so we don't have the budgets of some of the churches that we have around us. We're in Atlanta, we have some major churches
Yeah, we're in the Bible Belt.
right, with television studios,
Yeah.
So I think we really have been able to do a wonderful job, and I'm just grateful that I was able to step up to the plate during this time.
So what's the history of this church?
Oh, let me just say that there are streets named after my pastor in this neighborhood. Bible Way has been instrumental in the Thomasville community for well beyond my years.
Yeah.
So I can't begin to tell you the start. No, but it was started from a house-to-house prayer session by women. So
Yeah.
Apostle Matthew Norwood, who I mentioned earlier, his mother was part of a group of women who went door to door, and eventually men said, "Y'all need a building."
Yeah.
And so that, like I said, it was well beyond my years. But Bible Way has been part of Church of Our Lord Jesus Christ organization as well. We are considered the 7th region. And Apostle Norwood was one of the presiding apostles over the organization. He's been a presiding apostle for foreign missions for as long as I've been here. Not now, because he's semi-retired, if you will,
Yeah.
but he's very, very active. Apostle Matthew Norwood, very, very active. But that's a little brief history.
I wanted to ask you about when you mentioned earlier about feeding the souls in their spiritual nourishment and their food nourishment as well.
Right.
And I want you to explain to me in your thoughts about some of the disparities that was highlighted by the pandemic.
Well, just the amount of people that come for food regularly and that line up early is definitely indicative of the need in the community. I mean, without fail, rain or shine, we are packed, and it's concerning. It's like food. We're one of the richest countries in the world, yet, man, people line up consistently. So that was kind of surprising to see. What is a little discouraging, though, is I think there has to be, I don't know, for legal reasons or whatever, maybe there has to be a separation from giving food away and church or some kind of, but it's on our property, so we'll say, come join us, and we could have 300 people out here for food and not 300 people come to church,
Yeah, no,
so
absolutely.
that's something that we would like to treat. How do you close that gap? How do you not only feed them physically, but feed them spiritually? And so we try to let them know, hey, this is Bible Way. Thanks for coming. We do a prayer before we start the food bank. Sometimes when we have events and community events going on, we'll pass a flyer as well. And it's been some soft response to it.
Yeah. So what do you think faith is going to look like in this new post-pandemic world?
Oh, well, obviously, a lot of it will be virtual. I don't think everybody's coming back to church. So having a digital pastor, will be important. And being able to engage people online.
Right.
It can't just be you posted up your service and that's it. It has to be continued engagement, apps, because an app is right in your pocket. It's right on your phone. And then you have to continually give people content. Young people go to Instagram and TikTok and all of these things because there's constant content. It's
Right.
just, and they want to see what's new, and I don't want to miss anything. Well, how do we get people hungry for the word like that and hungry for their local church even? And one answer is give them content. Give them something to do. And it can't always just be what's considered churchy.
No, I understand.
It has to be practical, something that feeds them in other ways, like the food bank, but entertaining. It just can't always be a churchy session or something like that. And then you have millennials and stuff. They want something different, and it's not that we always hear about churches declining, and I'm sure a lot of churches closed because of the pandemic, but there are churches that are thriving.
Absolutely.
And they have a different model, and it doesn't look like our mothers' and grandmothers' church.
Exactly.
And so I think some of the churches that's been around for a while are struggling with identity, and how do you speak to the new generation and still maintain your traditional people and your traditions, period. Your traditions,
exactly.
period. And so that's, there's going to be a hybrid. It's going to be an online and an in-person. And you have to speak to all generations. You can't discount one and say, oh, we're just going to start, having dance parties.
No, exactly.
So I think...
Because you got to serve all souls.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get
They're about
into
to start rehearsals. So. But go ahead.
I just want to get into a little bit about the idea that being online is really nothing new to faith. The very first social media, also known as radio, reached millions of people.
Right.
And then when television came along, television evangelists have served souls online, if you will,
right.
for many, many years. So what we're going through right now is really nothing new.
Right.
But I want to get into Calvin Thorbourne III, the very talented person who sings very well, who has you've done some acting, and I want you to talk about a little bit about that experience.
I will say that sometimes artists don't record regularly because they haven't lived enough, right? So they'll record something and they'll be like, okay, I need to live. I've lived enough to do a multi-album set right now.
Yeah.
So I do feel in my spirit it's time for me to release what's been building up, the experiences, the pandemic. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like and how that manifests through me.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely out of practice, and I need to just sit in the studio and see what comes up. So,
right.
So that part. I will say, as far as my creativity goes, because I'm searching for ways to keep people engaged, during the pandemic, we were doing a pre-recorded model where we record different parts and then I would compile it into a service, and that really exercised my creative skills because I didn't want it to be boring.
Right.
I want it to be engaging, and so that's kind of where I feel I was able to funnel that energy.
Right.
Now we're getting ready to be back into live streaming, so I don't have to do the editing and stuff, but there's just a little juggling act that happens on Sunday. But I'm looking forward to recording and making some music and channeling the experiences into something creative.
Yeah. So finally, I want to say thank you so very much for your time. And Calvin Thorbourne III, how do we know each other?
This is my uncle. This is my uncle Calvin Thorbourne. And it's always a pleasure to speak with him. He is a man, I am probably a man after him because he was into fashion entertainment before I was born. So I'm grateful for this opportunity that my family, my uncle is interviewing me and archiving this moment in time.
So I want to say thank you so very much for your time. It's so wonderful to be in this sanctuary this morning. And I just can't wait for the service to start. And I want to say thank you so much for inviting me. And it has just been a joy spending the morning with you.
Well, thank you for coming, and I'm happy to have you here. So, all right.
Oh, my Jesus, every day. Oh, Jesus, my sweet Jesus. Every day, your name is the same.
That's all I got.